Hi lovelies, I'm Brie Wollman and I'm the creatrix of Briething Botanica and the Pleasure Potionista who has crafted this glorious product called Goddess Tincture. And so I'm here to talk to you today about this amazing medicine for women's health and provide you with a little WoManual on how to work with this beautiful tincture if you are someone who has ordered from me or are considering ordering from me. I'm so excited you're here. So a few things that you should know. First of all, what is Goddess Tincture? So Goddess Tincture is this beautiful creation that I crafted with inspiration from my work with Wild Essence and the most beautiful and luscious ever, Jessie Magic, who is the headmistress of Wild Essence School of Feminine Magic and Mysteries. I'm the co-directrix. And together, when we were redesigning and kind of rebranding what the school would look like, and we're developing our Wild Enchantress course, which was this navigation that Jessie and I both had taken back toward our wildness, our wild woman state, rewilding back to our natural cycles and our natural rhythms and understanding how our body was one with nature. And I began detoxifying from synthetic hormone-based birth control, and my intention with all of this learning was around supporting my fertility and preparing my womb space for motherhood if that was a journey that I ever wanted to take, knowing that years of being on synthetic birth control would have wreaked havoc on my body, knowing that I would want the healthiest, most nourished state of my body in the event that I ever wanted to conceive. And also kind of noticing some changes that were happening around my 30-year-old body at that time, 32-year-old body at that time, that was starting to decrease in some lubrication, and my libido was weakening, which made sense from being on hormone-based birth control. But I was really looking to make pleasure experiences and women's sexuality a much more empowered and luscious experience. You hear all these stories about how, or there's like this connotation that women don't enjoy sex, or that it's painful and it's all about men's pleasure and like it's not really enjoyable, and that is a joke. That's something that Jess, we're really exploring with the Wild Enchantress course, and I knew from my own life that that wasn't a true story, and yet I was still having some challenges that I wanted to remedy. And what came out of this beautiful, inspired creation and my own personal experiences and those of some of my friends who got to start working with this tincture early on was so much more profound than what I had intended. And so now you see it on my Briething Botanica shop, and you see so many who are sharing about what it does for their lives, what it does for their libido, what it does for their bodies, what it does for their stress, their sleep, their creativity, how it's alleviating so many of the challenges that so many of us face with our, just under-supported menstrual cycles and really undereducated womanhood. So there's so much more that we can dive into there, and if you're interested, I encourage you to connect with Wild Essence and Jessie Magic and myself for beginning some studies in those realms alongside us, the realms of feminine magic and mysteries and feminine darkness. But what I really want to share with you, for those of you who are already customers of Briething Botanica and Goddess Tincture, those of you who are interested in Goddess Tincture and kind of toying around with whether or not this is something that's right for you, I want to provide you with a little bit of a user's WoManual so that you can have some of my most recommended tips around working with this medicine. So first of all, Goddess Tincture is not for you if you are pregnant or you suspect that you might be pregnant. The herbs that are in this particular blend have abortifacient properties. There are many emmenagogues, which means that they stimulate blood flow to the pelvis, and they also stimulate bleeding. So we're looking at herbs that can cause early miscarriage, cause early labor, premature birth or cause an abortion. So you don't want to work with these herbs if you are pregnant or suspect that you are pregnant. However, this is a beautiful blend to work with to prepare for conception and also recalibrate the body postpartum after having a baby. So you don't want to take it while breastfeeding. However, you may work with it when you are intending to conceive. And so there's a couple of recommendations that I have around that. If you are trying to conceive actively at the current moment and you are looking for some support, what I might suggest is taking a break from that if you are experiencing irregularities in your cycle, if you are experiencing irregular periods, if you are not ovulating, because you won't get pregnant anyway. But if you are having any kind of cycle irregularities, my best, strongest suggestion would be to take a break from actively trying to conceive and just work on regulating your cycle with the tincture for a minimum of 1 cycle, but ideally more like 3 cycles or more than that, maybe even 6 cycles. So we're looking at 1 to 6 months, ideally 3 to 6 months. If that's not feasible for you, you can still work with the tincture to help regulate your cycle while trying to conceive, but it's a little bit more, you have to be a little bit more particular about how you do that. And you will want to work with the tincture only in cycle days 1 up until ovulation. So the first day of bleeding, during bleeding, and then you can also work with the tincture throughout your follicular phase until you ovulate. Once you ovulate, you want to stop taking the tincture. And once you've had unprotected sex, you don't want to do anything to flush any of that out. We want to hold all that in and allow any fertilization to happen and then to implant in the womb that has been prepared with all of the herbs that are in Goddess Tincture. So you can work with it that way, but it is very important that you don't take it once you ovulate until you either take a pregnancy test and it is positive, and then you continue not taking the Goddess Tincture, or if you don't become pregnant and that's confirmed and you're having a normal period, then you can start working with it again for that first part of your cycle. Many of our fertility supports, fertility herbs, things like evening primrose oil and flaxseed and a variety of other recommendations that any sort of fertility healers or doctors or midwives or any of these kinds of facilitators may suggest to you are recommended for one particular part of our cycle. And that's because we're working with different hormones in the different phases of our cycle, and there are different functions that are happening in our system at that time. So it's really common that is a way to work with herbs for fertility. It's just something that we have to be particularly careful about so that we're doing the best to cultivate a womb space that is going to support life, if that is your goal. If you're someone who is not trying to conceive, or you are actively not trying to conceive for a period of time to prepare the womb space, then here are my recommendations about working with the tincture. It is ideal to take it every day in your cycle because it has so many herbs that are working to add hormones where they need to and subtract hormones where it's needed. So it's normalizing your levels. It's working with your system and it's reading what's going on and it's helping to bring everything back into baseline. So if you're having really painful periods, heavy blood flow, scant blood flow, absent period, really painful periods, PMDD, endometriosis, really intense mood swings, you're transitioning to menopause, all of these kinds of experiences, in addition to things like cysts and really painful ovulation, this tincture is something that will support you in that because it has a normalizing effect on the hormones, on the endocrine system. It's really supporting the digestive system. It's really supporting a lot in the body. So my recommendation is that you work with the tincture every day of your cycle. And the way that I work with it is that I take it I take a standard dose every day, and then I increase the dosage at times when my body tells me that that is needed. So especially as a newbie working with Goddess Tincture, when you first begin, it's really important that you work with it every day. The reason why is because herbs like consistency, especially when we're working with them for a specific purpose. Not all herbs. However, we do want to build a relationship with the tincture and the herbs in this tincture, and it is safe to take every day. Of course, you want to listen to your intuition and listen to your body signs, and if something seems off, then you'll want to consult me so that we can look at what's going on. But ideally, optimally, giving your body 1, 2, 3 cycles of taking it at least once a day, every day, will help to support your body in understanding and building a relationship with the herbs that are coming into the bloodstream and working throughout the body. It'll also give you time to start to collect some data and see the signs of what your body is showing you in response. So you'll have the opportunity to have 1, 2, 3 bleeds if you're someone who bleeds, or 3 months, three moon cycles where we're working with nature and the ebbs and flows of nature to see how it impacts our body and impacts our mood and impacts our lifestyle, our creativity. So ideally, that is my recommendation. Plan to work with it every day for a minimum of 1 month so that you can see what it's like when you have your first bleed. If you're someone who bleeds, ideally 3 months of that would be beautiful, so you could really notice the nuances in blood color and texture and cramping and all of the other facets that go along with our menstrual cycle. The dosage that is recommended is 1 to 3 dropperfuls at a time. That's one dose. I'm gonna ingest this amount right now, 1 to 3 dropperfuls. And so when you get your dropper bottle, no matter what size you order, each comes with a tincture dropper top, and all you want to do is allow it to take in as much tincture as it naturally will. You're not going to expect it to be a completely full dropper, because that's just not how they work, but let it draw in as much as it will. That's considered 1 dropper full. And you can take 1, 2, or 3 dropperfuls at a time. I typically take 3 at a time. Sometimes I even take 4 at a time, but it's best, especially if you're new to it, to start taking 1, 2, or 3 at a time. And always notice what's going on with your body. If ever you feel like dizzy or lightheaded or anything like that, you might want to back off on the amount that you're taking. And likely that's more a result of the fact that you might be fatigued, dehydrated, need to eat some food. So those kinds of experiences are few and far between in my experience, but you'll want to pay attention to your body's response and also listen to your intuition, because that is an important role in the correct dosage for you. So I typically start out my day with a cup of coffee with 3 droppers full of Goddess Tincture, and that is my standard baseline everyday dose. And then I increase that. Sometimes I will double it and take another 3 droppers full midday or at the end of the day. Sometimes I will triple that and I will take that 3 droppers full 3 times a day. Other times I just kind of take it intuitively, like I have it in the morning as my standard, and then I just take a few dropperfuls here and there throughout the day as my body tells me that it would be supportive. Some of the signs that I use to tell me that it's time to take some more Goddess Tincture are if I am irritable, if I am feeling unsafe or lacking that sense of groundedness and I'm feeling a little bit anxious. If I'm having some gas or bloating and I'm having an upset tummy, because the ginger that's in there is going to settle that. If I am really close to bleeding and I know it's coming soon, I want to help stimulate that and support my womb space to start flushing. Also, if that's coupled by any kind of emotionality like tearfulness or agitation or whatever. So I might just go and pop a dropper full in my mouth at that time. However, I do often increase my dosage in those seasons of my cycle as well. So usually the times when I up my dosage are around ovulation, because Goddess Tincture stimulates that creativity that we naturally are having an abundance of during the time of ovulation, when we are most likely to be trying to conceive. At least our body is telling us that we want to do that, whether that's something that we actually want to do or not. Nature is supporting us in doing that. I already have like a surplus of that vivacious, luscious, juicy energy, and so the Goddess Tincture just sort of enhances that, and so I find more of an energetic reason. However, many women experience painful ovulation, so I get little twinges, which aren't really uncomfortable, they're just something to notice, but many have a more painful, more stressful kind of ovulation, because it is sort of an inflammatory response in the body where the egg is being released from the follicle. And so it's kind of, there's a little bit of a fiery, burny sensation going on, and the fiery energetics of the ovaries at that time. So the herbs that are in the Goddess Tincture can help to soothe inflammation and ease that process. Other times when I increase the dosage are during my luteal phase. So after I ovulate, all the way through bleeding, and then during bleeding or menstruation, especially about that week before, where my premenstrual symptoms start to really become in flux. That's when I'll take 2 or 3 doses of Goddess Tincture throughout the day, or just intuitively I'm taking more throughout the day. And then any time where there's a transition in the hormones. So when I am bleeding and then I'm stopping bleeding and I'm starting to become follicular, there's an increase in estrogen. And so I'm going to work with the Goddess Tincture to kind of soothe and smooth that change from really low hormones to starting to build again. Also at ovulation, where we have a plummet in estrogen and an increase in progesterone, that is sort of like a roller coaster, which is why we often see like such a contrast in our mood and the way that our body feels. I will continue working with the Goddess Tincture to support that, and like I said, sort of level out and normalize that transition, so it isn't so much of like a plummet and a spike as it is like I keep my estrogen levels kind of a little bit more elevated, and it's a more gradual transition into the next phase. And then the same thing is true, like I said, those days leading up to bleeding, when you're more likely to have like migraines or headaches, you start to feel really fatigued. The Goddess Tincture is going to support your energy levels. It's going to help optimize the hormones that you do have for those moments of action when it's really needed. It's going to level out any kind of mood swings that are happening as both of your hormones are starting to plummet when you're moving towards menstruation. So I find that I increase my dosage kind of intuitively during those times. So you certainly can do the same. I would definitely recommend that you start out with a consistent baseline. I'm going to take 1 dropper full every day, or I'm going to take 1 dropper full 2 times a day every day, and then you adjust from there, and that you track how your body is feeling. That means you literally write down what you're noticing as you're working with the tincture. Tinctures are the most potent form of taking an herbal supplement. They're the most rapidly absorbed into the bloodstream, and so you'll notice that when you take the tincture, that within 15 to 20 minutes, 15 to 30 minutes, you'll start to see some effects. Usually for me, it's a little bit sooner than that, but we're all different. So it might be a good time to really have your journal ready and to jot down what you notice in that window of time that you've just taken the tincture. Because the tincture is so potent and absorbs right into the bloodstream immediately, one way that you can facilitate that even further is by taking it under the tongue, which helps with that absorption right into the bloodstream, especially if like you have a monster headache, or you're having like really intense mood swings, or like a panic attack or something really intense. That can help like facilitate that mobility into the bloodstream, but it is rather strong. So this is a alcohol-based tincture. It extracts all of the plant material, and so there's only a small amount of residual alcohol. However, it does have a really strong flavor and can be quite sharp under the tongue and even on the tongue. So while you can take it that way, you might want to have a drink that you can chase it quickly. And that's one of the ways that I take it often. I'll just put a dropper full in my mouth and chase it with a sip of water. Other times I add droppers full to my water bottle and sip it slowly throughout the day to just kind of keep me, keep things on an even keel. And if you are concerned about that residual alcohol content, it's great to dropper into some hot water or a cup of tea, which helps to evaporate off any of that little remaining alcohol, so you have more of that herbaceous flavor and it's a little bit more soothing. So working with a tincture is like drinking several cups of really strong tea, and you get that, like I said, you get that those benefits mobilized into your bloodstream right away. And then the more that you work with it on a consistent basis, the more readily your body will respond to working with it, and you'll start to notice sort of just a more natural responsiveness, and maybe you will require less of a dosage, but most of my clients, including myself, tend to increase their dosage from what they typically start off with. I offer Goddess Tincture in 3 sizes. The first is a 1 ounce tincture bottle. I also have a 2 ounce tincture bottle and a 4 ounce tincture bottle. And the 1 ounce is considered a 30-day supply if you take 1 dropper full 1 time a day, every day. That will last you 1 cycle. Most of my clients who order a 1 ounce bottle and have the intention of taking 1 dropper full 1 time a day are increasing it really soon after they start working with it, and so it may not be a full month, but it's a great way to start to get a feel for how it works for you. And from that initial everyday relationship that you start building, if you're also tracking and really noticing, and also give your body a chance to bleed so you can also see and read the signals of what your blood tells you, you will have a really good idea about the accurate dosage for you and how it may ebb and flow with the different seasons that you're in and the different phases of your cycle. And I fully empower your intuition and your decision making around what feels most serving to you. If you're someone who isn't looking to work on regulating your menstrual cycle because it's really regular and it's feeling really good and your blood looks great and you're not experiencing pain, but you're looking for a little libido kick, then that might be the one exception around taking it every day, and you may just want to work with it as you're looking to enhance your creativity, enhance your pleasure, enhance your sexual experiences, whether they be partnered or your own self-pleasure practice, or to increase some lubrication and blood flow and sensitivity and awareness if you're engaging in a yoni de-armoring or a yoni mapping practice. And so in which case I would suggest that you just work with the tincture during those times that you are wanting to increase lubrication to your pelvic floor, to your yoni, increase blood flow and sensitivity and attention. So you kind of bringing that mind yoni connection into alignment. And in that case, then you can work with the tincture between 15 and 30 minutes before you have a planned pleasure practice, or during the day that you think that you might be intimate, and that can support your pleasure experience. I believe that's pretty much it. I think that's all that I can think of. So just to recap, not something you want to take while pregnant. You have to be mindful about when you work with the tincture in only the first part of your cycle, from bleeding until ovulation. If you are trying to conceive, take it every day if you're working to remedy some challenges with your cycle. It will start to take effect between 15 and 30 minutes from the time that you take it. A 1 ounce bottle is a 30-day supply with the lowest dose every day. You can take 1 to 3 dropperfuls 1 to 3 times a day. I think that's it. So this has been just a little guide to you around how to maximize the Goddess Tincture benefits. I certainly hope that if you are a current customer, that I will see you again soon. If you're someone new who's interested, that you'll reach out and ask more questions. But I hope that this has given you a lot of answers to some of the questions that have come up for you and intrigued you, and perhaps we'll see you ordering sometime soon. And just a little side note, I am considering a monthly subscription for preferred customers. This is a product that takes 6 weeks to extract, and it is extremely popular and sells out every month. And I'm just one little witch working in her kitchen. So if you're someone who says, this is for me, it will be for me forever or for the foreseeable future, and I never want to be without it, please let me know if you would be interested in a monthly subscription so that you are a preferred client who always is guaranteed a bottle of your choice. And I will let you know if that's something that comes in the very near future. Thank you so much for being here. If you have any other interest in one-to-one supports for fertility, sexuality, pleasure, creativity, if you're interested in Wild Essence coursework or any other one-to-one work or custom products or Briething Botanica shop products, reach out. I love you. I'm so glad you're here, and I'm wishing you many blessings, so much wellness, creativity, magic, and love.